Well, it's been a great day so far at the Economic Times Highway Economy Summit 21, but they say till you don't get to touch the last bit, seek the information, it is still incomplete. So we are making sure it's completed, and two gentlemen will make sure it's completed at its best. Importance of modern highways in the growing truck economy. Now, if you have been abroad, I'm sure you must be comparing, right? But the two gentlemen who will give you comparison with a solution and what is the way out. Importance of highways for freight transport in India, changing landscapes of roadways freight movement in India, modernization and growth of truck industry, easy financing options for truck buyers, and contribution of players like Shriram Transport Finance Company in empowering single and fleet owners of trucks. And the last, the road ahead for the highway infrastructure development and thereby the future of truck transport in India. This is the Economic Times Highway Economy Summit 21, powered by our very own Shriram Transport Financing Company. Joining us now in a fireside chat, first our assistant chair, a very happy gentleman who always likes to bring in the best conversation. He is none other than Mr. Himal Thakkar, Director, CRISIL, and joining him in conversation is going to be Mr. Revankar, Vice Chairman and Managing Director, Shriram Transport Finance Company, for the most awaited session. This one is Importance of Modern Highways in the Growing Truck Economy. Himal, over to you.
Thanks for that kind introduction, Nitin. And it's always a pleasure to interact with Mr. Revankar. We keep interacting offline, so this is another opportunity to interact with him. So, sir, as the session highlights, and we've seen through the day the importance of road infrastructure in India, and how it has got pace the last couple of years. So we have seen that say way back in fiscal 15, when we used to construct about 1,500 to 2,000 kilometers, of road, national highway road per year, has gone up to almost 5,000 kilometers of national highway road. So apart from Golden Quadrilateral, we have lot many other projects, which are ongoing, and it's been, a phenomenal journey for that matter. So with improving road transportation or, road infrastructure, how do you see this, impacting the overall trucking industry? You've been watching it very, very closely, funding most of the customers in India. So, just wanted to know your views on that.
Yeah, thank you. See, it makes a very big difference when the infrastructure, especially road infrastructure, improves. Probably the previous presentation itself, it was talking about how much economic difference it makes to a particular place. So a road, when you have a 4-lane, 6-lane, 8-lane highways, then the movement becomes very fast. Like from around 250 kilometers per day, we are now moving to 400 kilometers per day on an average. Of course, the abolition of toll also has really has helped to some extent interstate. But I feel that if you are able to move to 800 kilometers per day, the US, and 950 to 1,000 kilometers per day of Europe, because these are the two golden standards we have.
Yep.
If you're able to reach, then the movement of the goods can be very fast, and the viability of the business will become much better. So ultimately, the viability of any business is how much more you'll be able to do in a given period of time. So the most of the loans given to the truckers today by bank or any NBFCs are for 4 or 5 years. Imagine the movement of the goods become much faster, then probably the repayment period can come down, or even the interest rate also can come down, because the ability to earn or drive more becomes much better. So, and also the roadside facilities. The better road, better infrastructure gives better facilities. For example, the accidents. Earlier, in my experience as a lender for last more than 30 years, the average accident reported would be around 4% of the vehicle, whichever out of my total sample. And today it is around 2% of the vehicles. That means number of accidents have come down significantly over the last 30 years. And I give that credit only to the infrastructure, because that gives that kind of a safety and speed and also the maneuverability, everything. So I think Indian economy, if it has to move, because the logistics cost, what they talk about is logistics cost. Now in India, around 400 billion US dollar is the logistics cost, which is around 14% of the GDP. Right. Internationally, it is around 8%. Right. So if at all our logistics cost has to come down to around 8%, what benefit goes to whom? Benefit goes to the manufacturer, exporters, and the people who are in the logistic business. So everyone gets the fair benefit, and the manufacturers and exporters' ability to reduce price or being competitive in the international market becomes much better. So I think going forward of the post golden quadrilateral, I would like to see the Sagarmala developing earliest, because that is something which will give the exporting and importing activity a big boost.
Absolutely, absolutely. So one more thing, as you see this roads getting developed, there is a lot of thrust on digitization also, which is also leading to newer things. Fastags are now compulsory, e-wables are there. With respect to, kind of accidents, you have e-challans, or, for overloading, you have e-challans. You have all e-things, coming in at a much faster pace. Do you think, with this kind of transparency, even for financiers like yourself, who are a large financier to the commercial vehicle industry, will this transparency and will this flow of more data information help you evaluate customers better and in a way, bring down the cost of funding somewhere?
No, it's obvious. These are all obvious. See, more than that, I feel these are all things which we already seen a good progress, good traction. There's one more thing which we are missing. That is Carriers Act of 2011, because it provides the transporter or the shipper or the intermediaries to be registered, and the consignment letter or the invoice given on the trip is legitimate. Today, in the absence of non-registration of the intermediaries as per the Carriers Act, whatever the bill given is not legitimate. So you are not able to make the payment on that, discount that bill. So, so once that the Carriers Act is strictly implemented, the rules came into effect in 2013, but very few of them have registered. So it is not in effect become a proper system, because transport system needs that kind of a. So the funding of the bill can bring down the cost further. Today, on an average, 5 to 7% of the bill amount get reduced. Because you either can't when you have to pay advance to the transporter, but this bill cannot be discounted. So there is a cost involved in that. So as a financier, that will give me much more bigger opportunity to fund. So overall, the cost can come down significantly to the operators. See, large companies, large fleet operators, they get benefit of being financed by the bank at lower rate. But what about the individuals? 70% of the Indian vehicles are operated by individuals, owner
customers.
For the cost, if that for them, if it has to come down, then all this will play a major role.
Sir, also, if you see, you alluded to this earlier that, we are seeing more of 4-lane, 6-lane, 8-lane highways coming up, and, which will also in a way lead to faster turnaround times. And, we've gone up from always about 250 kilometers to 400 kilometers a day. It's still, kind of quite some time, we reach to somewhere about 800 or 1000 as as we aspire to. But apart from road infrastructure, do you also think, the vehicle configurations need to undergo a change? Today we have vehicles, with lower power nodes in India. So with faster turnaround times, we are already seeing, higher tonnage vehicles being demanded more because of cost economics. So how are you seeing this, kind of scenario shape up going forward?
I think there's much more to that. One is the power of the vehicle, configuration of the vehicle, and also the fuel part of it. Because today the electric vehicle is being discussed, but electric vehicles are mostly for small powered vehicle, less powered vehicle.
Right.
But the CNG and there is a LNG or LPG.
Right.
So then there is a hydrogen cell. Of course, hydrogen cell does not talk about it. But CNG and LNG can really make a big difference. Earlier, the transportation through a CNG powered vehicle was only between a short distance from Delhi. Because only
Right.
in Delhi CNG was available in and around. Now it
Right.
has moved up to Jaipur. It was going from Delhi to Kurukshetra in Haryana.
Right.
CNG was available only that level. Today, it is up to available at Jaipur. And yesterday, I met one of a customer in Mumbai. He has taken a CNG vehicle and he went up to Delhi and came back. That means the availability of CNG in
Has
shorter
improved.
distance has improved. And that is definitely going to change, and that's going to make. See, why I'm talking about CNG, LNG is not because operators profited because the cost of the CNG is less. More money would come into India, especially the ESG funds, which focus on funding environmental friendly activities or socially responsible activities and green funds. This money, if it comes into this business, then definitely the lending rate can come down, cost of acquisition can come down, and everything can improve. And some of it can go into infrastructure as well. So I think we need to play big. We should think big. We have to think about getting billions of dollars from the international market into building infrastructure and building infrastructure not only on the road, but also on CNG, LNG, and electrical charges, etc. I think the Surface Transport Ministry is definitely talking about it very positively, and they're talking about connecting Mumbai to Delhi through electric also, through electric charges. There's a lot of talks, and that's really going to help India.
Right, sir. Also, if you see, as you rightly mentioned earlier, Golden Quadrilateral was one, very ambitious project started way back in early 2000s, which connected the entire country through national highways. Now, even as, we heard from the previous speaker and, other speakers during the day, that road construction is happening almost in every nook and corner of the country. So, even parts like northeast of the country, which was not very well connected at, kind of during the earlier part, of or the earlier part of the decade, I would say. Now we are seeing more and more construction happening, even on that side. So largely it was a case that, smaller vehicles will be largely preferred because of lower terrain or, difficult terrain. But now we are also seeing, MNHCV kind of vehicles being flying on those areas. So because of this improved connectivity, how are you seeing this, trucking industry, kind of change? Do you see more proliferation of these kind of vehicles, even in remote places in the country? What is your view on that? Because, you being a financer, I'm sure you would want to reach every nook and corner to ensure that, everybody is financed and, you have vehicles on road.
No, see, vehicle density in India, if you compare with China, we have 1/5 of the vehicle population.
Right.
And we also have a little older vehicle. That is, average age of Indian vehicle should be around 8 to 9 years.
Right, sir.
Whereas it should have been around 7 years. So, see, that means there is a scope for more number of vehicles as economic activity improves. But what I feel is India should think of we should think of being a global player in transit and transshipment both, transshipment, because being a part of a transit, it gives you the international, it becomes part of an international route, and it can be a place where you fuel and take a rest or break or repair. one. And being a transshipment, what you are talking about, creating infrastructure across border to border. India has a huge border. Most of the Asian countries are linked
Are connected.
to India.
Yes.
So if you become a transshipment point, the ship which comes into Kandla or Mumbai, and that container can go across by road to the eastern part of the India, that is Burma, China, or Thailand. There is a scope. So we need to think in bigger, because if you want to make any business global, then we should have a global vision. So I feel if we are able to do that, I think it is going to become a huge plus point for Indian logistic industry.
Right. So that's a very important point that you brought out. Both transit as well as transshipment. This will not only bring more international cargo or route more international cargo through India, but it will also provide an opportunity for us to set up huge infrastructure to facilitate this cargo.
Yeah, India is a peninsula, and you have both east and west coast, so it can be both way.
Absolutely,
it's not just one way. Yeah,
absolutely. We've seen attempts made earlier, where on Petrapol, there have been attempts to create infrastructure, start rail movement from India all the way to Bangladesh. So I'm sure this is also something, which will play a huge role, if thought about in this direction.
Yeah.
Fantastic views on that.
And one more thing here is the standardization of containers, because of course there is a monopoly of a container corporation of India, but now there are private players are coming. If you make more and more transportation through a standardized containers, then multimodal activities can play well through ship, railway, and air.
Right. You are right, sir. And probably that is the focus that we are seeing slowly, gradually on the ground. A lot of focus is on multimodal logistics parks, wherever there is requisite space available, and wherever there are aggregation hubs, which will also change the way in which transportation changes. Another two things I would like to touch upon before we kind of conclude the discussion, sir. You mentioned about two things. One, Delhi Mumbai Expressway, which has been spoken about, which will reduce the kind of time taken to travel from Delhi to Mumbai, which will be a huge boon. And I'm sure, the road ministry is definitely thinking about, or they are even talking about putting up a huge infrastructure with respect to LNG and CNG through the entire corridor to facilitate better movement. Also, there are discussions about the electric highway being converted, kind of constructed, which will facilitate movement of electric vehicles, in India going forward. The pace at which, things are happening as compared to what we've seen earlier, you feel more confident that going forward we will see a lot more play from alternate powertrains in the CV space, and which, as you rightly said, currently our logistics cost is somewhere about 12% to 14% of GDP, will somewhere come down much closer to 8 to 10%, or closer to 8% going forward, because road transportation is one of the biggest contributor to overall logistics costs.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. See, along with railway, we also definitely need a good railway network. And people do often confuse and feel that once there is a good railway network, everything will move to railway. Does it not happen? Because economy, as it expands, it has an opportunity and scope for everything, and everyone will benefit. So anyone who is efficient will gain more. So I think it's only depend upon efficiency. Whoever is more efficient will get market share. So I think definitely the logistics cost will come down. And more than that, Indian manufacturers' ability to translate the manufactured goods as with the competitive price tags in the international market, that will happen. India will become manufacturing hub. Today, India is struggling to become manufacturing hub. People say that the industries are moving out of China because the cost of the cheap cost, which was earlier the main attraction of China, is no more there, and it is moving. the industries are moving to Vietnam, Cambodia, and
South Asian
Thailand.
countries, right?
We are yet to attract that industry as much as we expected. So one of the reason is the logistics cost and maybe energy cost. If you are able to address this, I think India will attract a lot of manufacturing activity into India.
Sure, sir. Even I feel so, and especially looking at the steps the government is taking, specifically with respect to introduction of production-linked incentive schemes, where there are, huge goals being doled out for setting up manufacturing in that space where we've largely been import dependent and making us more Atmanirbhar. I'm sure, going forward, this is going to pave way for a better tomorrow for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sir, thank you very much for your time. Mithun, over to you, Mithun. You're on mute, Mithun.
Thank you so much again. That was wonderful. Uh, I like how you spoke about the other mode of it. That brings me back to a thought in European countries. There is so much more of shipping ways across to make sure there's so much more happening in transportation. And then we compare to Indian shipments, it's only restricted to the sea lines or the sea bay. So, Emil, I know it's done a session, but one question I have to ask you: when do you see India actually booming towards shipways as being one of the most prime ways going ahead? Going ahead.
I think there is still a long way to go there, but there is definitely a start that we've made. Even today, if you see in the overall scheme of things, if you look at coastal movement is very, very restricted and restricted to very few commodities. So, you see coal moving all the way from east coast to west coast,
Right.
some bit of
Right.
cement moving. But if you see apart from that, there is not much momentum happening. As sir also alluded to, the coastline that we have can be used for our own advantage. Now we have a lot of manufacturing which is coming up in the state like Gujarat. For example, if you look at most of the auto companies, they have their kind of plants which are set up in Gujarat. So I am sure with proximity to ports like Mundra, Kandla, etc., there can be movement right from Gujarat all the way to down south or even on the eastern part of the country, and the cost per kilometer or the cost per ton kilometer per se, when you look at transporting
True.
through coastal, is almost one third of the cost that you have through road transportation, and even
Right.
half as compared to what you have in railways. So yes, that is something where we are heading towards, but will take some time. I feel something like dedicated freight corridor will actually have some kind of an impact earlier. The government is working on that front very aggressively. So WDFC and EDFC will definitely have an impact, and then probably we will see more focus on the coastal side. And even under Sagarmala, as sir mentioned, or under Bharatmala for that matter, there is a lot which is being allocated for coastal movement also, apart from kind of
True.
inland waterways. So from that perspective, we feel there is going to be a good potential, but there is still some time that we'll have to wait for that.
Yes, because for anything to happen, first thing that the government will look into is the security and safety of opening any mode. But as Mr. Revankar is with us right now, I want to say thank you to you, sir, and your team for partnering with the highway economy, and indeed, very, very, very grateful to you and your team. So thank you so much again, Revankar, sir.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you very much.
All right, so that is all about this. I also want to thank Himal here. Thank you, Himal, for being an amazing
Thank you,
orator.
Mithun.
As always, I'll
Thank you.
connect you very soon. But
Thank
meanwhile,
you, sir.
others who are watching, this is the Economic Times Highway Economy Summit 2021, brought to you by Shriram Transport Finance Company. And all those great speakers that you heard today, they're all here to only make sure you understand what more happens, what more is coming when it comes to infrastructure and development. My name is Mithun Upadhyay. I sign off from here, and I leave you back with a thought. Where do you see connecting to India and infrastructure development, with India or without India? I'll see you soon. Take care and have a good day. Thank you, Emil, again. Have a good day.